Good evening, y'all. This is Zach with Brothers Go Boom. I'm out here in the forge by myself this evening, and what I thought we'd do is attempt to replace the spring in my old Boker AK knife. It's a spring knife, automatic knife, switchblade, whatever you want to call it. You're supposed to push that button and the blade flicks out. Well, obviously, it doesn't do that now. The spring is broken. Here's actually a brand new one that works the way it's supposed to. And you can see I've had this old one, I don't know, probably 5 years. Carried it basically every day. It's been a great knife. I really like it. Have not been gentle with it, and it stood up pretty well. But the spring finally broke, as they will all do sooner or later. So just thought we'd try to replace that. I generally don't throw things out until I've given it a pretty good effort to try to fix it. So I've got another one here that my brother actually gave me as a replacement. This is the sheepfoot model, which I really like. I really like this blade design. But I'm going to try to see if we can't get the old one going again. All right, so got the old broken knife here. And to get it apart, you've got to have a special bit. I don't know, I can't remember what they call these. Torx bits or something like that. It looks like a star bit to me, but there's a big one and three small ones. And the big one takes what I believe they call a T9, and these are a T6. And I got this little set at Home Depot the other day. It's got several different bits in the handle. And the one we're looking for is, let's see, I think it's this one. Yeah. T6 and T9. So to start out, put in the T9 and loosen this big bolster screw here and get it out of the way. And you want to do this on a good bench. Don't do it near the edge, because when you drop these tiny little ones, they're pretty much gone for good. So do it over a good table or a bench, and we're going to switch it out. Pinch the scales together so that your handle doesn't fall apart and all your guts dump out. We're going to loosen the first one. Try to get it out of there. There's one, two, there's three. So kind of support the blade a little bit so it doesn't flop over. When you lift this top scale off, the button will come with it, and usually the spring. There's also a blade stop pin that will fall out if you don't hold on to it. You have a little plastic gasket washer, whatever, on top of the blade. Lift the blade off. There's the old broken spring. We'll get that out of the way. And this pin will come out, and there is a flat side on it that corresponds to a little flat spot in the hole, so it'll only go back one way. You can leave that in for now. And get a new spring. I got these from, I believe the company's called Blade Ops online. I think I just typed in Boker AK replacement spring, and they were one of the first ones to come up, and they were in stock, so I just got 4 of them. These springs have a little pin sticking straight down, and then another one sticking straight up. And the one that sticks straight down will fall into this little slot here. So when you put it in, the pin that's sticking straight down will go into that slot, and then the little pin that sticks up will go into this little hole in the blade. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little hole right there. So turn the blade the right way. Rotate it back until you can get that little post on the spring to engage that hole in the blade, and it just did right there. So you can feel as you rotate it forward, there's some spring pressure. So keep your finger on this blade because you don't want it to wobble off of that little post on the spring. So next we're going to put in the blade stop pin, and again I'm just pinching it with my thumb and forefinger. Put that blade stop pin back in, make sure it's all the way in, and then the blade will rest against it. You still want to keep pressure on the blade so it doesn't flop off. Go ahead and put your plastic washer back on top. Probably should have cleaned that first, but it'll be all right. Make sure your spring, you can actually just go ahead and set your spring down in there. Make sure your button stays put. And as you put this back together, you have to line up the blade stop pin with that little hole. And you also need to make sure the spring sits in that little cupped portion of the rear side of the button. So we will attempt to get all that done while keeping the blade tight so the spring doesn't come loose. And I think we've got it. The button moves. The blade stop is almost in place. There it goes. And we've still got some tension on the blade when we push the button and move it a little bit. So everything's lined up the way it should be. I'm going to go ahead and put the bolster screw, I believe that's what it's called, back in first. And just finger tight is fine for now. I'm not really snugging this down much. I just want to get everything holding together on its own. So we'll start with the small screw. Again, just snug-ish. Same for this one. And then number 3. I just kind of want to look, make sure everything is the way it's supposed to be. The button still moves. The blade's got some spring to it, so now I'm going to go ahead and put it back in the handle and use the T9 to give that a little bit more tension. Same thing for the other 3 smaller ones, the T6 size. Just snug them up a little bit. Now we'll just make sure it works. It's a little sluggish. Probably could have put some oil on it. Loosen that big bolster just a smidge. That's a little better. I don't have any oil within reach, but a little drop of oil around this blade to get it down onto that pin will probably help that out a lot. But there you go. The old Boker AK back in action.